This is for 5th grade ELA text set 7, literary language. Our goal for today is to consider reasons why writers might combine poetic and factual language in one book. Our essential question, how do writers use literary language to enliven their writing? Okay. What would you expect to see or hear in a frozen place that is only just starting to melt? The author of the book we're reading today wants us to know about places in the woods that are full of life in early spring. There are places that don't even exist by the end of summer. The book is called The Secret Pool. After we read it, you might be inspired to look for some secret pool yourselves. The author wrote this book using 2 different voices or writing styles. As I read, listen for those different voices, and we'll talk about how and why they're different. A shimmer, a twinkling. Do you have any inkling of what I am? Even if you are lucky enough to find me shining on the forest floor on an early spring day, you might mistake me for a puddle, which I most certainly am not. So what does an inkling mean? Do you have any idea what this shimmering, twinkling, shining thing is? If it's not a puddle? I'm a watery jewel called a vernal pool. I sparkle, but that's not the only reason I'm precious. Many creatures of the forest depend on me. Some may come lay their eggs, and others visits me to feed and rest. Listen, here come my first guests. Who do you think is speaking here? Why the pool calls itself a precious jewel, and then we'll read more about vernal pools. What's a vernal pool? Vernal means occurring in spring, which is when you can find vernal pools. These temporary pools can be as small as a puddle or as big as a pond. They form every year when low places in the land fill up with rain or in colder climates with melted snow. Vernal pools are found around the world and are identified by the creatures that breed in them. In the northeastern United States and eastern Canada, these include wood frogs, spotted salamanders, and fairy shrimp. Vernal pools usually dry up in late summer, which means fish and other predators that need water year-round can't live in them. That's a good thing because fish would eat the creatures that breed in vernal pools along with their eggs. Spring first singers. A great way to find a vernal pool is to listen for woods frogs in very early spring. They sound like quacking ducks. Wood frogs survive the winter in an amazing way. They crawl under the leaves and freeze into frogsicles. Like ice crystals form inside their bodies, but wood frogs make a special sugary chemical called glycol that keeps them from freezing solid. Their hearts stop beating and they stop breathing all winter long, but they wake up again when their bodies thaw out in the spring rains and warmer air temperatures. Soon they hop back to vernal pools to mate and lay their eggs, often in the same pool where they were hatched. After breeding, wood frogs return to land, where they spend the summer eating spiders, beetles, earthworms, and other invertebrates. Croak! 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 My first spring visitors sound like ducks, but guess again. Come close and all you see are old brown leaves. Wait, one of the leaves is moving. Ah, it's a wood frog. The males float on my surface and call loudly, looking for mates. Their song is not sweet, but it breaks the winter silence. Rainy spring nights are what spotted salamanders like. The wetter the better, for slithering through the forest from their underground lairs. Shiny black with yellow polka dots on their backs, they slip into my water and begin to dance. Slowly, silently they swirl. No stars tonight, but my water whirls with tiny yellow moons. Pool party. Few people ever see spotted salamanders because they live underground, usually in the burrows of small mammals such as shrews and voles. But if you visit a vernal pool on a rainy night in early spring and bring a flashlight, you might see them. On the first rainy nights of spring, spotted salamanders come out of their hiding places to breed in the vernal pools where they were hatched. It can be a dangerous journey because they most often crawl across busy roads to reach the pools, and they are hungry predators such as a mink and raccoons. Shrimpy shrimp. You might think shrimp just live in the ocean, but tiny, mysterious fairy shrimp can only live in vernal pools and other temporary wetlands formed from rain or melted snow. You will be very lucky if you see fairy shrimp, because they don't live in all vernal pools. They only live about six weeks, and they are very small. The biggest fairy shrimp are only about 1 to 1 and 1 inch, half inch long. Fairy shrimp usually hatch in very early spring and sometimes again later in the summer. They tend to gather in sunny patches in vernal pools. Fairy shrimp eat microscopic animals called zooplankton, which can affect the color of their bodies. Fairy shrimp lay their tiny eggs on the bottom of vernal pools. These eggs must dry out completely and freeze in order to hatch the following spring. Some fairy shrimp eggs can last 15 years before hatching. Other creatures have laid their eggs in me like dark little dots, almost too small to see, but when they hatch, kaboom! I've been filled with jazzy orange fairy shrimp. Slim and frilly, they swim willy-nilly, upside down, tickling me with their feathery feet. So now that we've read further in the book, who can describe the two different voices I mentioned earlier? How would you say the voices are different? Okay. And then, what did you learn about frogs and salamander eggs on these pages? Think about these two descriptions. Slippery, slimy surprise packages and elegant kidney-shaped mosses attached to twigs. Does one create a clearer picture in your mind? Why do you think? Alright, I'm going to skip that. Baby salamanders stalk their prey at night just like their parents. They shun light, tiny but ferocious. They will eat any little thing that moves, including each other. Look out! Salamander larvae. A few weeks after wood frog eggs hatch, spotted salamander eggs hatch into larvae with feathery gills that look like lacy collars of strange little headdresses. Although they are only about an inch long, they are fierce predators. They are carnivorous and hunt for aquatic insects and other small prey. In vernal pools. If you shine a flashlight into a vernal pool, you can sometimes see them at or near the water surface. You should never touch salamander's larvae because they are extremely delicate. Kerplunk. Kerplunk. A hungry bullfrog is on the hunt. Tadpoles scattered in every direction, except the one he catches for lunch. Pool hopping. Scientists have tracked bullfrogs and turtles traveling from pool to pool to feast on tadpoles and eggs. Ribbon snakes and other snakes also hang out around vernal pools for easy meals. By summer, my waters wiggle with lots of creatures, sprouting all kinds of dainty new features. They must grow legs and lungs before it's too late. Even then, the chances they'll make it aren't always so great. A race against time. Most vernal pools dry up in late summer, which means that wood, frog, tadpoles, and salamander larvae must grow into juveniles able to survive on land. During this growth process, which is called metamorphosis, tiny frog lets grow legs and absorb their swimming tails, and salamander larvae lose their feathery gills and develop lungs, which allow them to breathe air. Sometimes tadpoles and salamanders larvae become trapped in shrinking vernal pools before they go through metamorphosis, and they end up providing easy meals for many forest creatures. Other times they die when the pools dry up, their bodies returning to the earth and providing nourishment for future plant and animal life. I'm going to skip that part. A whisper of wet is all that I am, a small muddy patch on the forest land. Trees drop their leaves and cover me up. You might think I'm disappeared, but don't worry. I'm just getting ready for next year. Migration isn't just for the birds. Although they don't travel as far as the birds, wood frogs and spotted salamanders migrate too. In spring, adult amphibians migrate to their vernal pools to breed, and then they migrate to other habitats to feed and rest for the summer. Later on, young wood frogs and salamanders migrate from the vernal pools where they were hatched to find habitat on land for the rest of summer, fall, and winter. Some young wood frogs travel more than half a mile. That's a lot of hopping. I've shown you my secrets and now I must go. It's time to make more life from leaves, rain, and snow. The ingredients of life, leaves in winter. Vernal pools are places of transformation. In autumn, a new layer of fallen leaves covers the bottom of vernal pools, which gradually fill back up again with rain and snow. Fungi and microorganisms break the leaves down into nutrients other creatures can eat. Many kinds of insects arrive to breed in the pool and eat algae that grow on the leaves in the bottom. By the time fairy, shrimp, wood frog, and salamander eggs hatch the next spring, there are all kinds of delicious things in the pools for them to eat. Soon what was once dead leaves will become new frogs, salamanders, and insects, all of whom could well become dinner for someone else. Okay, so do you hear two different ways of thinking here? Which way of thinking do you prefer? Why? Why does the pool tell the creatures to hurry up?